Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Coco, and today we are doing something that I am very excited about because I love talking about new books and books that I'm excited for. So I have a list of 15 2026 releases that I'm really excited for and that I hope I really love. Some of them are from authors I've never read from. Some of them are authors that I know and love. So I hope maybe you'll get some inspiration for what to read in 2026 for these two. And I will be giving you the release dates if they exist. Some of them are just like a vague, like you have to ask an oracle because we don't know exactly when they're going to come out. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first one that I want to talk about, we're starting off with a bang, is Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. If you know Alexis Hall, you know that she wrote Lady for a Duke, which I have on my TBR and still have not yet read. That is a historical romance with a trans woman, which I think is really cool. That's not the book that we're talking about today though. Hell's Heart. This is going to be coming out March 12th, 2026. And this is, wait for it, it is a sapphic retelling of Moby Dick in space. Retellings can go a couple different ways. They can be horrible or they can be really good and maybe even better than the original. Calm down, everyone. I'm not saying that this is going to be better than Moby Dick, although I have not read Moby Dick. I feel like I've garnered enough information about it from the zeitgeist. So it's a future, from what I'm understanding, it's a future where humanity has to scavenge the stars for their livelihood. Corporations and churches and some collectives of people who are in charge of everything. Everyone has to eke out their own little existence. And a lot of people have to go out into the solar system to try and make ends meet somehow and literally survive and be able to eat. It kind of feels like it's going to be like Repo the Genetic Opera a little bit.
Zydrate comes in a little glass vial.
A little glass vial? A little glass vial.
There's a hallucinogenic substance that is keeping everyone alive, but it can only be found from this one type of leviathan. And I know this sounds ridiculous, that swim in Jupiter's atmosphere, which I'm pretty sure is mostly gas. I'm not sure how that would work, but these leviathans obviously are akin to the white whale in Moby Dick. Our main character is just called I, and she's telling her experience with the captain of the spaceship A, supposed to be like Ahab, and has to work with Q, a woman from old Earth who knows a lot of things that other people don't, remembers a lot of things that other people don't, and they have to work together because A is a little bit unhinged and they have to work together to try and make sure that they don't end up dying because of A's whims, I guess. I'm really interested in this. It kind of reminds me of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove, which is a book that I really love. That was kind of like a retelling of the Demeter chapter of Dracula. I didn't love Dracula. That was a really good book. I really liked that, and I feel like this is going to be akin to that, even though it's a completely different author. So I am really excited for this book, and I'm hoping it has similar vibes. I'll let you know once I'm able to read it. I'm gonna hopefully be getting it right when it's out because it seems like it's gonna be really good, and I really like the cover too. My thumbnail was kind of inspired by that cover. The next book is one that is not usually my style, but I love Amal El-Mohtar. I loved This Is How You Lose the Time War. I have not read her other book, The River Has Roots, yet. This is more of a speculative fantasy group of short stories and essays, and sorry, that's my cat. And I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone a little bit for books. I know what I love. I tend to have a pretty high rating by the end of the year because I DNF things. I don't pick up books that I don't think I'm going to like, at least a little bit. So I do think that I will like this, especially because it is a time-bending short story collection, and I think she writes things to do with time and the bending and changing of time really well. So I'm really excited to try this one out and see if I like it. And that one comes out March 24th of 2026. The next one comes out in April, and that is The Caretaker by Marcus Cleaver. And this is more of a thriller / horror. So if you've read We Used to Live Here, he's the writer of that. That one is very much, you don't know what's true and what's not, what's real and what's not. And I feel like this is probably going to be really similar. This is about a woman who, the economy, it's hard to find a job. So she gets this opportunity to be a caretaker in this house for 3 days, and she's going to make a crap load of money. And when things seem too good to be true, they probably are. And I think she's going to figure out that this is the case for this job. The publishers are saying this job turns into a walking nightmare, and it's seems like it's going to be another one of Kleber's Not Everything Is As It Seems books. I'm really excited to try it out. I got really freaked out at We Used to Live Here. I didn't love the ending of that book. I hope this one I enjoy a little bit more, but I do think for a man that he writes women, especially like queer women, respectfully and pretty well. So I am really excited to try this one out too. And I'm not going to look into anything else about it because I think his books are best, well, the only book I've read by him. It was best read not knowing much going into it. So I think I'm going to do that for this one too. The next book I want to talk about doesn't come out until September 1st, but I want to talk about it so much. I've been really excited for this, and I read the first book like a couple years ago at this point and still remember the whole story, so you could tell that I really love this series. This is Spiritu by Aidan Thomas, and like I said, it releases in September 1st of 2026. This is a YA magical realist book. In the first one, Cemetery Boys, it's about a young trans teenager, and he's trying to reconnect with his brujo magic and also kind of deal with his parents and his family not understanding what it means for him to be trans, just specifically in Mexican American culture and the complications that come with that. So he tries to raise his cousin's ghost to figure out what happened to him and ends up accidentally summoning somebody else. And in this one, this is about the ghost that he summoned. I'm not going to go any further into it because it will be a complete spoiler for the first one. You need to read the first one, and then we got to read the second one when it comes out. I know it's a while from now, and I'm really sad about that, but I'm also really excited. And then another one that I'm so incredibly excited for is Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. This is coming out on April 30th, 2026. She wrote Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, which ended up being really popular last year. It was a really good book. I really loved it. It's a supernatural horror book set during the 2020 pandemic, specifically the experiences of an Asian American woman living in New York and her sister being killed by hate crime. That one was really good. This one specifically is about a man in 2025, and he is hiding out in his dad's very old home in Japan. And in 1877, there's a woman who is a samurai, and she's guarding the borders of her family home after the slaughter of the samurai class, if you know anything about that. And somehow they meet up, somehow they end up meeting each other and have to search for answers to both their problems. I think it's just going to be really interesting. I love the idea of like a Japanese Gothic. I've seen a lot of Western Gothic books that aren't done very well. I have no doubt that Kylie Lee Baker is going to knock this out of the park. I really hope so, because I loved Bat Eater so much. I also do want to read her backlist of, she has, I think, a lot of YA fantasy books, but I love that she's writing another adult book, and it's going to be another horror/thriller. It feels like a very fresh new idea, and I've really been wanting that in books. I feel like it's been a lot of the same. I cannot wait to read this. Luckily, April 30th isn't that far away, even though it kind of feels like it. It's like near the end of the spring semester for me, so that makes it feel a little bit farther away. But I'm really excited about this one too. I'm gonna have to edit out so many I'm excited. I'm so sorry. So this next one is one that I am so ready to read. It's gonna be out on February 17th of 2026. And this is another book by Heather Fawcett, who wrote the Emily Wilde series, which Fae researcher story, really good. I have not read the second and third book in that series, but I'm going to, and I'm probably going to do like a dedicated vlog to rereading the first one and the other two. But this one is Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter, which sounds right up my alley. You talk about cats and meowgic. That was a Freudian slip. You talk about cats and magic together, I'm gonna want to read it. This one is about a woman in the 1920s in, I think, Canada. She's in Montreal, Canada. She runs this shelter, and she tries to find cats forever homes. She has to end up moving out of the place that she's been renting for it, and she finds this place that it's like the only one that she could find. What she doesn't know is that it's a front for this failed Dark Lord to, basically it's like a money laundering scheme, but it's like magic laundering. It's putting her and her cats and everything at risk. So she has to enlist the help of a grumpy wizard to try and save her shelter from this Dark Lord. It sounds so ridiculous, but so good. I feel like it could easily get cheesy, but I feel like Emily Wilde could have been the same way, and I don't feel like, at least the first book that I read, I don't feel like that was. So I have faith that this one will be really really good and won't be too cheesy. But even if it is kind of cheesy, I'm kind of okay with that. It's probably going to be like a fun read for me. Not one that I always read critically, but not one that I'm going to have to really dive deep and think very, very, very critically about things. So I'll probably read this when I need a break, maybe during midterms or something. We'll see. I really need to get through her other backlist stuff before this comes out, though. I have time. February 17th is pretty far away. So this next book actually comes out in January, which isn't that far away. It's the end of January for this one. January 27th, 2026 is when this one comes out. And this is To Ride a Rising Storm by Monaco Blackgoose. This is a sequel to Shape a Dragon's Breath. I absolutely loved the first book in this. I don't know if it's a series or just a duology, but it's about this magical world, but colonization happened very similarly to the way that the United States colonized indigenous people in the Americas. And in this version, in this world, they're colonized and there's dragons on this island. There's dragons all over the place. But all of the dragons that are native to this indigenous island are killed. The people that live on this island are relegated to kind of like a reservation. And they're not allowed, they're not supposed to have dragons. Or if they find a dragon, they're supposed to immediately tell people. So this girl finds a dragon egg and she hatches this dragon egg. She takes care of it and realizes that she doesn't really know much about dragons or how to take care of them. So she has to enlist the help of her colonizers and go to the colonizer school, and quickly realizes that they're just going to try and mold her completely to what they want her to be, relegate her into basically like a diversity hire, like a diversity student. They want her to follow very specific rules. It's about her grappling with that. It deals with a lot of racism and bigotry, and it can get really, really frustrating to read because you know that this happens in real life. But I do think it's a really, really good book. It's got a very different structure to it than a lot of like typical dragon books do. I love that it's different. I love that it gives us a look into what it's like to be somebody marginalized like that, even in a fantasy setting. And I think fantasy is a great way to explore those types of things while not... They shouldn't have to do this, but like not making it too intimidating or threatening to people who maybe don't realize they're perpetuating these types of systems. So I'm not going to go a lot into the synopsis of the sequel because it, I think, starts directly after the end of the first book. But I think Monaco Blackgoose is a great writer, and I was invested in this book, the first book, the whole time. I think that this one's probably gonna be just as good, and I need to get physical copies of both of them. First one, I have it on my Kobo, so I don't have a physical copy, and I definitely want to get a physical copy of the second one. I love the colors on them. It's just gonna be really nice to have on my shelves, maybe let people borrow if they promise to take care of them and not lose them. The next one after that, Nightshade and Oak, is a second book by Molly O'Neill. She was a debut author, I think, last year. She wrote Green Teeth. This one is going to be out on February 3rd of 2026, and this is a fantasy book. Green Teeth was about a Jenny Greenteeth character of lore and legend. She's like this lesser fae that takes care of her pond and has to go on a quest with this witch and this dwarf, I believe, to save the town and her pond. This next one is, I don't know if it's set in the same world, which I think that world is just our world, but fantastical. This is about Malt, who is the goddess of death. Due to a magical mishap, she becomes human and she has to deal with her feeble body, her lack of power. She used to be almost all powerful, and now she doesn't have the ability to do like anything that she's used to doing, and has to do like the horrible thing, which I agree that I hate doing this. She has to ask for help. So she ends up teaming up with a warrior's daughter to try and restore her powers. Now there's a couple different reasons that I'm really excited for this book. First of all, I just love Molly O'Neill's writing. I thought that Green Teeth was a really good, a really good quintessential quest journey story, and I feel like this is probably going to be really similar to that. I like that the main character isn't becoming all powerful. It's that she was very powerful and now she's not, which feels like an allegory for chronic illness. If you don't know, I am chronically ill. I have something called hypophosphatasia. It's a genetic condition, it has to do with B6 and enzymes. I won't bore you with it. A lot of people don't realize that the way they feel right now and the things that they're able to do are not guaranteed that they're going to continue to be able to do those all the time for the rest of their life. I really hope that she explores that a little bit. I really love Molly O'Neill's character writing, along with it being like journey stories or like quest stories, which I think she's really great at doing. I think she's really, really good at writing characters that are lovable and flawed and just interact really well with other characters. So I'm really excited for that too. I was really sad when I read Green Teeth and I realized that that was her first book, because I knew I would have to wait for the next book that she writes, but I can't wait for this. It's coming out February 3rd, and I will be the first one at the bookstore to go get it. Also keep in mind, I will be getting some of these from the library. Make sure to support your local library or borrowing them, etc. It's not like I'm going out and buying all of these books and over consuming, but if it's one that I end up loving, I probably will add it to my shelves. I love having physical media. I want to get more other physical media besides just books. I'm really, really, really a huge proponent of the library, especially because I might still become a librarian. We shall see. Depends on if I get a job as UX designer, if I get a job as a librarian, if I can connect the two. That's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the next book. The next one, I can't believe that I'm going to be able to read this. It is The Secret World of Briar Rose by Cindy Pham. This one I don't have a ton of information on. Cindy Pham is Read with Cindy on YouTube, and she's been talking about this book that she's been working on for a really long time. I'm so excited that she was able to get signed and is publishing this book in June 2nd of 2026. And seems to be a queer Sleeping Beauty YA fantasy retelling. And that's all I need to know. I'm really excited about it, and I hope that it's really good. Either way, I am really, really happy for Cindy, and she doesn't know who I am whatsoever, but I'm really happy that this debut novel is going to be coming out, and I will be reading it for sure. So, have you ever read a slasher rom-com? I have not either, but this next one is apparently a slasher rom-com, which is apparently a thing. So, How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thompson is coming out on February 3rd of 2026. This is about Jamie and her best friend Lori, and for like shits and giggles, they decide that they're going to go to a speed dating event. They just want to have like a fun experience, go get some drinks and food afterwards and laugh about it. But one of Jamie's dates, the lights go out. When the lights come back on, his throat is... She's a huge fan of slasher movies, so she feels like she knows how to survive in this universe and how to figure out who the killer is and all of that. But there's also apparently some sort of love triangle as everyone's trying to find this killer. I feel like it's a mix between like And Then There Were None or like other closed door mystery, like murder mystery books, but also a silly rom-com where there's some sort of love triangle. So this might be really, really cheesy, but even if it is, I'm still going to read it. I think it sounds really fun, and it's probably going to be another one of those books that I'm just going to read when I need something silly and fun and just like a goofy romance. The next book is one that I can't believe that I am saying is coming out. We don't know the date. It's going to be fall of 2026. This is the third book in the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo. So the first two are Ninth House and Hellbent. They're about secret societies at Yale. It follows our main character, Alex Stern, who is a very flawed individual. She's had a really hard life and has seen a lot of violence and trauma. And she gets basically recruited by Yale after something horrendous happens to her because she has the ability to see ghosts and hear them too. And they need somebody with that ability to kind of police their secret societies at Yale who do necromancy and all this occult magic, and they need someone to like, it's like Who Watches the Watchmen, kind of that type of thing. And in the first one, her mentor, her partner, is missing. She has to try and find him. That's continued, I believe, in the second one. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to spoil anyone. I have no idea what this third one is about, but I am so excited because I love this series so much. I know that it can be a little bit of a polarizing series for some people, but I love Alex Stern. I love Leigh Bardugo's writing. I don't want to say she can do no wrong because she can. I haven't read, and I don't know if I will read Shadow and Bone because I've heard it's a little bit like cut out characters. Those were her earlier books, but her later books have all been a hit for me. I almost loved Hellbent more than Ninth House, which for a sequel is almost unheard of, especially for me. I'm really, really excited for this third one. We'll see how it goes. I wish I knew the exact date of it, but I don't. And then I was wondering for this next one when someone was going to write something like this. This next one is Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. If you see me looking over, it's because I'm looking at names and dates. And this one's coming out April 9th. She's a debut author, and this is a thriller. It's about a social media trad wife. She has this supposedly perfect lifestyle. She wakes up, she milks cows, she gets the eggs from the chickens in the morning, and she has these kids. This picture perfect life in her, you know, fun beige farmhouse that actually probably costs a lot of money. The life she's been cosplaying the whole time, she kind of has to put her money where her mouth is, because she wakes up one day in 1805 and suddenly has to actually do these things that women used to be forced to do that she's willingly cosplaying doing. She has to figure out if it's a hoax, if this is real. If it is real, how do I get back to my time period? She still kind of wants to try to make content from it, which is wild to me. I really hope that this is a good commentary on the tradwife phenomenon and the right-wing quote-unquote values that it portrays. I hope it's not just surface level. I'm really excited about it. I really hope it's good. It could be a huge flop, or it could be really good social commentary. So let's hope for the latter, because the tradwife thing is just going to get bigger and bigger the more and more time we spend in like this allegedly fascist state that we live in. So, and don't worry, there's only 3 more books. We are almost done with this video. I've been yapping for a very long time. I apologize. The next one is one that I don't think many people are going to know about, because I feel like this author is criminally underrated. I love her. I love this series. This is called Entities to Lovers by Mallory Marlowe. We don't really have a date for it. She said summer of 2026. We only have like a couple of sentences that she said in an interview to know what this book is. Storygraph doesn't really even have anything on it either. I even looked up Goodreads, which I hate, to try and see if I could find anything on this book. There's not much. So she wrote Love and Other Conspiracies, which is kind of like a Mulder and Scully, Shane and Ryan, if one of them was a woman, type of romance conspiracy theorist podcaster. And that book I really loved. And I also read Love at First Sighting, which was about like a UFO conspiracy. Entities to Lovers leans apparently much more into the paranormal aspect of it. It's about 2 rival ghost tour guides end up cursed to never leave each other's side, or else they'll end up having horrible bad luck. I think it's hilarious, and they might end up falling in love because of it. So she did say she was leaning more into the paranormal aspect of things. I'm really excited for that. I know a lot of people, they didn't like the first book, and I think probably the second book too, because like the first book didn't actually have, you could see the shadow of Bigfoot on the cover, and I guess people were upset that there wasn't actually a Bigfoot at all in the book. Spoiler alert, it's more about the relationship. But I don't remember the 2 main characters' names in the first book, Love and Other Conspiracies, but their romance was just so pure but not cheesy, and it felt really realistic. They had conflict, but it didn't feel like it felt realistic with like how long it took them to become more romantically involved and into each other, and I just really ate that up, and I think she does that really well, where it's not too insta-lovey. It's not creepy. The third act doesn't annoy the hell out of me. So I'm really excited about this one too. I wish I knew the date for it, but I don't. And then the last 2 books are by an author that has been very, very popular, especially recently. I actually read 2 books by this author for my Yuloween series. The first book that we're going to be talking about is And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. So this one's coming out February 24th, 2026. This is a romance book, obviously. This is the second book in the series. I actually haven't seen Sleepless in Seattle, so I don't know how true it stays to that story, but I really loved it. I thought that the characters were great. I actually really ended up liking the audiobook of that one. So this one is about 2 other people that were side characters in First Time Caller, which is what a lot of romance authors are doing lately, or it's like interconnected standalones. This is about Jackson, who works in the booth with, I think, our main character from the male main character from the previous book, and Delilah, who is like a field correspondent for this radio station. This giant snowstorm of the century happens. They have to cover this story of the snowstorm together, and Delilah really wants to be taken seriously especially as a reporter and a journalist. And she doesn't feel like she is because that's not really her style. That hasn't been her personality. So she enlists the help of Jackson to try and make her seem more credible. In return, she's going to help him figure out how to connect with his fun side. So they're kind of opposites. So it's kind of like an opposites attract kind of thing. They may fall in love. Spoiler alert, it's a romance book, so it's kind of required that they do. But I think it's going to be really cute. I loved First Time Caller. I thought it was really good, especially on the radio and with like the conversations that were supposed to be happening over on air. I think the audiobook narrators did really well. I think it was a dual narration. I can't quite remember. I'll put it on the screen. But I really like that, and I think that this one will be good as well. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to listen to the audiobook of this one or if I'm going to read it to my eyeballs, but we shall see. Last but not least, also by B.K. Borison, the last book that I finished before this is the first book in this series. I know that sentence didn't quite make sense. So this is very, very fresh in my mind. I read Good Spirits, which is a Christmas romance about the ghost of Christmas past and a woman who doesn't think she should be haunted, and they have to figure out why she's getting haunted because she hasn't done anything wrong. This is also a fantasy romance, which I love that B.K. Borison is leaning into this. But this one is coming out September 15th of 2026, so it's going to be perfectly in time for Halloween, which is good because it seems like it's going to be a Halloween book. It's called Grim Tidings. So this is set in the world of Good Spirits. Ghosts have these bureaucracies and corporations of their own. Our main character, Darcy, is a Grim Reaper. It's not as exciting as it seems. It's very corporate. She has to go to meetings. She has to meet quotas. She decides she doesn't want to usher people into the underworld anymore. She decides the next person that she's supposed to meet with their death is going to be saved instead. So she decides she's going to save the next person. But Gabriel is a guardian angel, and he is having none of that and doesn't want the status quo to be messed with. So he decides he's going to thwart her plan. But what he doesn't plan on is that they might have more in common than he realizes, and she might have good reasoning for what she's doing. He might also be falling for her. So I love this idea. I love a paranormal Halloween-esque. It's not set during Halloween as far as I know, but I love a spooky romance, and I think the X-Hex is one of my favorites. I've been chasing that high ever since. Even the sequel was good, but it wasn't quite as good as X-Hex. I'm hoping that this kind of scratches that itch a little bit. I'm definitely going to be eating this book up when it comes out, and I can't believe I have to wait until September, although I'll probably be reading it late September, early October anyway. So who are we kidding? It'll be perfect timing. I really hope it doesn't suffer from sequel syndrome. I've seen some people lately also say they didn't super love Good Spirits. I suspended my disbelief and loved it for what it was. I feel like you kind of have to do that with a paranormal romance, especially one that's set around a holiday or supposed to be a book that you read during a holiday. I think it's going to have a little bit of cheesiness, but I think by the nature of it being a Halloween release rather than Christmas, it might not be as cheesy. I personally didn't think that Good Spirits was too cheesy, but if people are worried about that, maybe this will assuage their fears. We'll see. I've been talking for a really long time. I don't even know how long. So if you stayed this long, thank you so much. I hope if you enjoy my videos that you come and subscribe and comment and and let me know what you want to see from me. I am so excited to talk about these books once they come out and I read them and we'll chat about them. But I think that's all I have for you today. I hope you have a great rest of your year. There's not much left of it, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye.